One of the most common network devices we have is an Ethernet switch. We could put this into a device like a PC and we would plug in an Ethernet cable into the network interface card. But what happens to the other end of this cable? Well, in almost all cases, we're going to plug that into an Ethernet switch port. And we can think of an Ethernet switch as the connective tissue that ties our network devices together. And these switches are intelligent. Now, what I mean by that is that they can intelligently forward network traffic. Now, by the way, when we talk about a switch forwarding network traffic, we're commonly going to call that traffic frames. And what a switch does is learn what MAC addresses live off of which ports. Then, when a frame comes into the switch destined for a specific MAC address, if the switch already learned the MAC address, it will only forward that frame out of the port connecting out to that destination MAC address. To illustrate how this works, consider this topology. We have a couple of PCs, a printer, and a server all connected to a switch. Initially, the switch has not learned the MAC address of any of these devices, so its MAC address table is initially empty. Now, PC 1 wants to communicate with the printer, and it sends a frame to the switch. The switch sees the frame come in, and it sees that that frame came in on port gig 1 from a device whose MAC address is the all A's MAC address. And the switch says, let me make a note of that. And it adds that entry to its MAC address table. Now, this entry tells the switch that if it ever receives another frame destined for the all A's MAC address, the switch can send that frame out of port gig 1. The switch also sees the frame it just received is destined for the printer with the MAC address of all C's. But the switch doesn't know where the all C's MAC address lives. So to make sure the frame gets to its destination, the switch sends a copy of that frame at all of its ports, other than the port on which the frame was received. Now, this process is called flooding. Now, again, flooding happens when a switch doesn't know how to get to a frame's destination MAC address. The switch makes a copy of that frame and sends those copies out all other switch ports except the port that received the frame.